Throughout the ages, history has been altered by word of mouth and the misrepresentation of those who might not have been present when some of the world's most significant events took place. Channelers Barry and Connie Strohm bring through the spirits of those who actually witnessed or took part in these historical events and lets them tell their stories in their own words. Welcome to Channeling History. And now, here are your hosts, Barry and Connie Strohm.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Channeling History. By now, you should know that we're the only show where we speak to the souls that made things happen. And we're brought to you on the Parix Radio Network. I'm Barry Strohm, your host, and I'll be doing the channeling tonight.
And I would like to thank you for tuning in to our show this evening. I'm Connie Strohm, your co-host. I will be asking the questions of our spirit guests, Alexander Graham Bell, Nikola Tesla, and Steve Jobs, as we investigate wireless communication tonight. Please tell your friends about it so we can continue to grow our audience.
Yes, we thank all of you that join us each week. They turn into old friends that we're looking at over there in the chat room. So tonight we're going to have some very, very intelligent people with some very intelligent answers. So I'm going to do a quick disclaimer. The opinions or statements voiced on our show are the channeled words of the spirits and do not necessarily reflect our opinions, those of the Parix Network, or of our sponsors. Now, last week we had an extremely interesting show. We channeled John Maynard Keynes, Milton Friedman, and Karl Marx, three of the greatest economists that ever lived, and got their opinions about what's taking place in our modern world. Now, all of our shows are available on YouTube channel. It's in my name, Barry Strohm. We have 500 of them there if you want to see any of them. If you'd like to download them, go to Podomatic.com and just search Channeling History. You can also hear us on Spotify, Audible, Pandora, iTunes, and many of the other platforms. So, before we channel, we always say a prayer of protection. So, Connie's now going to say the prayer, and we will begin to channel with our three spirit guests.
God, please grant us your wisdom and protection. Grant us the knowledge that we can handle and keep us safe from all things that will harm us. Keep the messages positive and pure love. Keep us safe from our egos. We ask these things in the light of the seen, the unseen, and the honesty of God. Amen.
All right, Connie, let's start off with Mr. Alexander Graham Bell, the inventor of the telephone. He did a lot more. You're going to be amazed with how much this man actually accomplished. So, Connie, let's go.
Mr. Bell, thank you so much for enjoying us this evening. What did you consider your real work as a scientist?
I had many family members that were deaf, and I started out trying to do things that would assist them. I thought that if I could conduct sounds over a wire, I might be able to help the deaf. I really wanted to do things that would simply help humans, and the telephone was one of the results. I worked in many different things. We studied human anatomies, human genetics. There were many, many things that I looked into. I just simply wanted to do things that would help others.
That's God's way. How did your work with the deaf lead you to communication inventions?
Well, as I just said, I was trying to figure out ways that I could help deaf, and sometimes we'd refer to them as dumb people. I know today that terminology certainly wouldn't fly. But there were many, many people that couldn't hear and couldn't talk, and in the days that I was living, they were at an incredible disadvantage. There were a few institutions to help them, but basically there weren't many. I wanted to try to work on ways to transmit sounds. I had hoped that the vibration of sound waves would be able to be picked up by the people who couldn't hear. And as part of my experiments and working with other people, we developed a system that we could carry sound over a wire. And the telegraph was very slow. That was the way we were communicating at the time. I never realized just what was going to happen with all of the advancements in telephones, but basically that's how we came to it.
Okay, you published a paper recommending that deaf people should not marry deaf people. Was this master race eugenics?
No, absolutely not. I did not mean it that way. What I meant was I could see a trend in my studies that when deaf people married, their children would also be deaf. I felt it would be to the benefit of human nature if deaf people simply married people with hearing. I know that the deaf are drawn to the deaf, and it was not a wise idea that I had. The deaf people are no different. They just simply have hearing problems.
What led you to voice transmission?
It was a time that many people were working on voice transmission. There had been a lot of research done in the past, and there were a lot of ideas. I wanted people to be able to communicate over long distances. It was something that I thought would help many people. The implications of being able to transmit the voice were many and incredible. And it was just something I thought was worthwhile working on, along with my goal to help the deaf.
Well, I'm glad you did, because I used that to keep in touch with my 99-year-old mother who lives 2 time zones away. What do you consider the breakthrough concept that allowed voice transmission?
The combination of combining electricity with the transmission of sound waves through solid media. In the beginning, I just simply focused on the idea of transmitting the sound waves through different types of vibrations. But when we combined it with electricity and a magnetic diaphragm, things became much more workable. We never, as I say, we were the pioneers. We did not know what we were doing at the time, so everything was trial and error.
You were awarded the first U.S. patent for the telephone on March the 7th, 1876, among much controversy over who was really the first with the invention. Did you borrow any ideas for your invention?
I used others' ideas just the same as others were using my ideas. It was pretty much of a cooperative effort. Just many times the people on the other side didn't realize they were cooperating with their information. A lot of the information was public. I read and studied as much as I could on the works of others and tried to combine what they were doing into my ideas. And there were many that were very, very close to having roughly the same concept that I had. Research was going on worldwide. So there were many, many scientists that were working on the concept of voice transmission. So I was very lucky to get in my patent application. There was another individual that was trying to get his patent approved as well. So it was a matter of days. But I did get my application in first, and I could prove that my work had dated back many, many years. As a result of what was taking place, I did get involved in many litigations. They were almost continuous for many years. But I do feel that my work was very unique and that I deserved that patent.
You did much work with the emerging science of heredity. What do you consider your greatest findings in that science?
I tried to work with animals. I wanted to make food more available to the public. I worked with some plant engineering concepts. My work in heredity probably wasn't as important as any of the other things I was working on. The idea that deaf people should not marry was probably my worst finding, but thank goodness so many of my other ideas did work.
What was and is your opinion on fossil fuels?
I think that fossil fuels are very dangerous because of the carbon emissions that come with them. I actually wrote on the concept that unlimited carbon emissions would cause a greenhouse effect. I did experiments with carbon dioxide and its effect on light emissions and filtration. Fossil fuels were and are extremely critical to the development of countries. Fossil fuels are also capable of doing great damage to the planet. There will be a time that fossil fuels will be phased out, but not for quite a while. There are poor developing countries where the only source of fuel can be fossil fuels. There are many people that cannot afford the concept of electric vehicles. They're very expensive, they have limitations, and in some instances, they're certainly not as capable as fossil fuel engines at this point. There will be a time, as I said, that fossil fuels will be phased out. And I do believe that that is very important. But it will not be in the near term. There are just simply too many people that cannot get along without it.
What was and is your opinion of philanthropy?
I tried to help many, many scientists in my life. I would make contributions to them. When I saw somebody that I thought had a good idea, I would contribute money to their cause. I did not hesitate to invest my funds into other people's ideas. And I did try to use my money in many instances to help the poor. I understood the concept that many people were simply endangered in feeding their families. Keep in mind, in those days, there were no real social nets. I was living in Canada, and I felt that the Canadian government was trying to do things to help others. So I probably should have done much for public philanthropy, but I did direct much of my money towards helping others through science.
What was your opinion on organized religions?
I thought that organized religions were very dangerous. I thought that organized religions were working in direct opposition to many of the things that I conceived of as being what God would want. In my day, there were many religions that were trying to, shall we say, take the state of being the only ability for people to get into the heaven of which they conceived. Churches were preaching things of which I did not feel could exist. I didn't think hell existed. I knew there were many things in the Gospels that in my organized mind I felt could not be real and were not accurate. Let's just leave it at that. But I thought that organized religions had the ability to be very dangerous for the people.
So were you an agnostic?
I must admit that I had doubts, but I don't consider myself outright an agnostic. I felt that there was a God. I felt that different religions did not give the true picture of what this universal energy or God really wanted. So yes, in many instances, I talked against organized religions and people thought that I was an agnostic, but I truly did believe in God.
Yeah, you described yourself as a Unitarian agnostic. What is a Unitarian agnostic?
Unitarians take an informal look at religions. I think the best way to describe it in today's terms are the all is one concept. Unitarians believed that many religions were not teaching the true stories. I was very cautious in my belief as of God. I think Unitarian agnosticism is probably not an accurate term of how I truly felt. But if you were a Unitarian agnostic, you had basically a very large concept of God, a universal concept where everybody is basically the same under his powers, which you will find out is pretty accurate. But I did believe there was a God. I just simply did not believe that it followed the parameters of the organized religions.
What is your opinion of social media today?
Social media is currently a very dangerous aspect of wireless communication. With the advent of social media, there are very few checks and balances, so there's really no way of knowing truth from fiction. Social media can be of incredible benefit in passing out information. It can also do incredible danger, especially to our young, because they're incapable of being able to tell what is right and what is wrong in many instances. Social media is doing much harm to the average young person. They see these individuals of higher intellect, of great personal beauty, and they try to emulate these people. Social media tries to lead people away from the concept that each individual is unique and very special. It is the uniqueness of each individual that should be the foremost thought in each of those individuals' minds. When they succumb to the psychological, the group mentality of social media, it becomes a very serious problem. It will all depend how the governments in the future can adapt social media for doing what is best for the people.
Okay, one of our listeners would like to know, how can we end the great hatred which the social media has created a lot?
It's very difficult. Hatred is one of the true tests for humans. If parents screen what their children are watching on social media, if parents require that the children watch only shows or do things on social media that follow truth, then there is a chance. Right now, the lies that people speak contributed to a lot of the great hatred. Politicians make their whole careers built on lies, and that can be either a Democrat or a Republican. Hatred is one of the most difficult of the human characteristics to control.
What do you see as the next great invention in communications?
There will be a time in the future that people can communicate telepathically. It may be through some invention that you wear on your wrist that will allow the vibrations, the natural vibrations that take place in humans, to allow communication. So I believe that the next great invention will be telepathic.
That's what I was just going to ask about you next. So you do see a possibility for telepathic communication among humans?
Absolutely. Other cultures on other planets communicate telepathically. It's a reality. It's the way of things. And I see no reason that humans are not going to be able to advance to it if they do not kill themselves before they get there.
How long do you think it'll be until we can do that?
I think it's a matter of a generation. I believe that generationally, you will see magnificent things happen in the area of communication.
Mr. Bell, thank you so much for joining us. Do you have a final message for our listeners?
Yes, I would like to thank you so much for allowing me to speak. I want everybody to understand that when I invented the telephone, or was the first to patent it, it was an incredible step forward. In the future, humans are going to have other incredible steps forward. They will learn many of the things that other cultures more advanced have learned. Education and information are the first steps towards knowledge. Humans need to convert the information that they have to true knowledge. And true knowledge is what will lead them forward into the future. So thank you very much for allowing me to speak tonight. I appreciate it, and I hope that I was able to answer some of your questions.
You were indeed.
All right, Connie. Next, we're going to speak to Mr. Tesla. He was one of the greatest inventors of all time, and he's been with us before, and his answers are always amazing. So let's begin.
Welcome, Mr. Tesla. You were one of the first minds to envision wireless transmission of verbal communication. What was your concept?
Well, I had multiple concepts. I thought that it could be through electrical energies. Everything was very young in my day. Radio waves we were experimenting with. We were experimenting with AC currents, direct currents. Everything was experimental. Today, when you look back at our work, looks so very, very basic. But, and indeed it was, but it led to many, many great concepts and great things. God was very good to me, and he gave me much advanced knowledge. I could sometimes see into the future, and I did have some pretty good ideas. I was living at a time that wired transmission was in its earliest of times. But I looked around and I understood that humans basically spoke with each other through verbal communication. I thought that there would be a way to take these verbal sound waves and to move them on to the practical way of communicating at some time in the future.
We have a question from our chat room. What do you think of your portrayal in the sci-fi show Sanctuary? Are you aware of it?
Yes, I'm aware of it, and I'm not very happy about it.
Okay, that's pretty quick. What exactly was your concept concerning radio waves?
Radio waves were very, very early in concept, but I thought that there would be a way that we could harness them, so to speak. I thought that it would take great amounts of electricity, but I felt that we could generate a radio wave that could be received over great distances, and that those radio waves could be translated into communication. I actually worked quite hard at doing that. My concepts were very difficult and very expensive to bring into fruition in many instances. I knew that there would be a time that communication would not be tied down to speaking over a wire. I knew historically that the telegraph led to voice communication over a wire. There were many, many concepts going through my head. Keep in mind that I thought that there would even be a way of providing free electricity to everyone through the air. So to me, it was actually not that difficult to conceive of a way using radio waves that sound could be transmitted.
Okay. You attempted to construct a transmitting station in New York. Do you think it would have worked?
As I look back, probably not, but the concept was correct. I think that if I had, shall we say, another generation of understanding, that I would have been able to construct a workable and usable transmitting station. What I was trying to do was very, very expensive. I should not have pursued it so emphatically, but I had great belief in it at the time.
If we understand your concept correctly, you believed that the ground could be used as a transmission medium. Could you explain that?
Yes, sound waves can be transmitted through the ground. Seismology is in science today that relies upon the transmission of those energies through the ground. You might not be aware of it, but if you take a heavy weight and drop it onto the ground, there will be sound waves transmitted through that medium. If there is rock underlying very closely, that rock will transmit sound waves much more rapidly than would be transmitted through the ground. But I did believe that there would be a way that you could harness that transmission energy. Today, obviously, there are many, many more effective ways to do it. But every time you have an earthquake, there are waves transmitted through the earth. And there may even be a time that you'll be able to use it accurately.
Do you still believe that humans can be supplied with electricity without transmission lines?
Absolutely. There is zero doubt in my mind. With the technologies today, I think that if the power companies would get out of the way and allow that to take place, that you could have electricity for everyone. Profits are often more important than technologies.
Yes. What do you see as the next generation energy source?
There are people working on multiple sources. It may be possible that nuclear energy can be developed to the point that the generation units can be very, very small. I think now that energy for many areas should actually be done through nuclear energy. There are problems. Hydraulic energy supply is one of the oldest ways and still can be used. But I believe that the fuel of the future is going to be hydrogen. Hydrogen is present in water, as you probably know. And there are many people that are working on the concept of taking hydrogen and converting it into energies. When that time comes, you will have an incredibly cheap supply. Imagine if every drop of water was capable of supplying energy by isolating the hydrogen and using it. I believe truly that that will be the way of the future.
Would you describe your religious beliefs for us, please?
Many people believe that I was a true agnostic. I did believe that there was a universal energy out there. I could not comprehend exactly what that energy was. When I looked around, I realized that there were many, many situations that could not exist without some type of external guidance. I did not know really what to truly believe about God. I knew that much of the teachings of the Gospels were impossible. I knew that they relied on concepts that were very difficult for me to believe. For instance, the concept of hell was very difficult. I could not believe that a soul could be sent to an eternal place of nothing. I did not pursue many of my beliefs because I was so interested in developing my scientific concepts. But I did believe, in spite of people thinking that I was a true agnostic, that there was an energy out there. I just simply was not capable of defining it.
What is your opinion of our social media?
As I'm seeing social media at this time, it appears to be a way of creating great problems for anyone involved with it. It could be a very great thing. But right now, it is a medium with no limitations. If an individual wants to use it to propagandize, to mislead the young, then there's very few restrictions that can stop it. I'm not one to believe deeply in governmental interference, but I do believe, just the same as the radio industry requires licensing and direction, that there has to be limitations on just how social media can mislead, especially the young. It is very difficult, and we are all entitled to freedom of speech. But somehow, truth has got to become more important than propaganda.
What do you see as the future for wireless communications?
I agree with Alexander that the future for wireless communication will be telepathic. We communicate over here telepathically. We do not have to speak. There will be ways introduced that humans will be able to communicate telepathically. On many planets, there are no spoken words. It is not an efficient way of communication that humans currently use. There are many, many languages that are spoken, and many languages that other people do not understand. When you communicate telepathically, there is no language separation. So that, in my mind, is clearly the future. There will be other amazing things introduced into the future, but that is indeed beyond human comprehension at this time.
Yeah. How exactly would telepathic communication work?
You see it among animals. They mentally conceive of a concept, and those concepts are acted upon. Animals are a great example. They communicate among each other, sometimes through languages you don't understand, but a lot of the communication that animals do is telepathic.
Okay, we're getting some questions from our chat room. One of our listeners would like to know, did you get messages from aliens during your lifetime?
I would get messages in my dreams. There's no doubt that aliens did affect the messages that I received.
Okay. How do you hide your thoughts if everyone is telepathic? That's a good question.
It is sometimes difficult, but you can control your thoughts. If the other person is reading your thoughts, you may be very reluctant to show anger. You may be very reluctant to think bad thoughts about him. So if you only think good things and act the way humans are supposed to act, then it's not a problem, is it?
Definitely. I hadn't thought about that. And one more question from the chat room. Do humans get all of their major technology advances from aliens?
No, it's a combination of where they get it. There are individuals that are just simply oriented towards scientific advancement, and the guides give information. There are many, many ways that individuals get scientific knowledge. And yes, through aliens, that is one way of doing it.
Okay. Are you considering reincarnating? And if you are, what do you believe will be your life plan?
I am thinking about coming back. I believe that the future is going to have some incredible opportunities for scientific advancement. And I believe I would like to participate in some of those discoveries. So I am truly thinking about returning.
Okay, thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Tesla. Do you have a final message for our listeners?
Yes, thank you for having me back. I always enjoy the opportunity to speak. I was gifted by God to have many concepts in my head. Many of those concepts were good, some were bad. I tried to do my best. Sometimes I fell short, and sometimes I succeeded. What was important was that I tried, and I would suggest that anyone out there listening that has a concept tries their best to fulfill what they are trying to succeed. So I thank you very much for allowing me to return. Should you ask me, I would be very happy to do it again.
And that makes us very happy. Thank you so much, sir.
Okay, Connie. Steve Jobs has been with us many times. He's a great friend of ours, and I'd like to welcome him back. So, Steve, here you are, and we got a couple more questions for you.
Number one, when you founded Apple Corporation, did you see the future for wireless communications?
Yes, I knew that wireless communications were possible. Radios were not getting it done. The walkie-talkies of the time, there were many, many concepts out there that were not highly effective. I felt that we would be able to take the telephone and convert it from a wire to a wireless type of communication. When I started Apple, things were moving very, very rapidly. It was a time where there were some incredible brains that were working in the industry. I was blessed to have a very, very good partner. We started by focusing on computers. And when we worked on the computers, miniaturization was a very, very important thing. Without the advances in the computer industry, we would have never been able to compete in the wireless communication industry. The cell phone is basically a small computer, and it was a natural progression for us at Apple.
It's amazing these days. When you were running Apple, did you consider yourself a visionary?
I considered myself somebody trying to make a living. As I said, I was blessed to be around very, very intelligent people. My partner was brilliant. he could build computers, he could do many things. I would get many ideas and we would discuss them, and he would bring them to fruition. I was more of the visionary, but it was only through his brilliance of putting my concepts into reality that many of the ideas was brought to reality.
What would you say was your key to success?
Determination was a huge thing. But I was also smart enough to realize that there were many, many people that were smarter than I was. I tried to hire the best people available. Their concepts would give me ideas. We would work together in groups, we would discuss things, and we would try to develop a path. One thing that I always did, I tried to give the people that worked for me the ability to work within their own parameters and not to work within mine. I worked very hard, and I expected anybody that worked hard for me to do the same. I know there were many people that did not like my work ethics, but I think that in the long run, they were truly very successful.
What do you see as the future of wireless communication?
Wireless communication is going to improve. There are still areas where individuals have poor service. You will see a time that wireless communication is more dependent on satellites than it is upon communication towers. There will be a time that you'll be able to speak flawlessly throughout the world. There will be a time that wireless communication will be incredibly effective. But you'll see a time where it is replaced. Throughout history, there's always been times that tools or discoveries were deemed to be absolutely important, but as time wore on, it was not so true. A good example is the blacksmith and shoeing horses. There will be a time that you look back at the current wireless communication and think that it was incredibly basic. I agree with my other two colleagues and friends here that there will be a time where telepathic communication becomes a reality. Humans will have to be ready for it because, as one of your questioners stated, it is very hard to hide your thoughts, especially when the other individual is very competent at reading them. So maybe mental telepathy is the tool that is needed to make people coexist and get along. We're all hoping that that will be the case over here.
Do you see some type of a device in the future that will allow for this mental telepathic communication?
Yes, there will be some kind of a device that increases the telepathic vibration of the human body. I think that is a path of research that is going on right now. Artificial intelligence will help lead to this development, but humans must be very cautious because such a type of advancement can also have a lot of downsides.
Yes, it's a bit scary to me. What is your opinion of social media these days?
I think that social media is incredibly important for its ability to transfer information. Many countries can control the access to social media, and many countries use it for propaganda, just the same as many individuals use it for propaganda. It can be an incredible source of information, but it can also be an incredible source of misinformation. There has to be some means of separating the good from the bad. The impact of immediate information transmission is a great development for humans. The only downside, obviously, is that the information that is transmitted so rapidly can be fake. Once humans get control and understand that truth has got to be what is transmitted, then it will be a great development. But keep in mind that your newspaper and your TV news industry is not held back from telling lies as well. In spite of the fact that government has tried to control it, those controls often bring negativity. So it is a very difficult balance. Children have got to be protected from social media. It is very important that the youth are protected. If the youth are misled and taken away from using their own logical conclusions, then social media will not serve the public in the future.
How far into the future do you think it'll be before we start with the mental telepathic communications?
My belief is that it'll be 1 or 2 generations.
Okay, will the aliens be assisting us with that?
Yes, there will be a time that aliens will assist with that medium of communication. It is currently obvious that the humans are not ready for this. There are many implications, and when humans develop to a point that they can handle it, there will be much help. Once you're over here, you understand just how much help is available. But the reality is that there are times that humans are not capable of handling what can be available to them.
When do you believe humans will be able to move between the unseen dimensions that surround us?
That is a very difficult question. Keep in mind that there are, shall we say, humanoid forms capable of doing that today. The life form that humans refer to as Bigfoot are capable of moving through those dimensions. They do a good job of it, and it has basically preserved their way of life. Humans are not ready for that next journey. If humans were granted the right, the abilities to move between those dimensions, before they develop the concept of coexistence, the ability to move between those dimensions could be used as a terrible weapon. Once humans decide that they can get along and love and not show anger and not want to kill each other, then they will truly be able to advance into knowledges that could be used against the human race. There are so many things that humans don't know, but there will be a time that they understand it. When humans are ready, they will be helped in doing many, many things that other life forms have been able to do for millions of years.
Now that you're on the other side, what do you see as the most amazing technology utilized by the aliens?
The ability to use dimensional changes to travel amazing distances. It is a fact that extraterrestrials can travel the length of the galaxy in a very short period of time. Today, humans are tied down by a lack of ability to travel great distances. They cannot even travel to the next planet safely. Imagine being able to use dimensional changes and be anywhere you wish to be in the galaxy. It is something far beyond the comprehension of humans today.
Do you see humans ever catching up with alien technologies?
There are technologies that are so advanced that they'll probably be a long time catching up. But humans will cross a threshold of understanding and knowledge. Once they cross that threshold, then it will be much easier to learn these advanced technologies. You have to lay a great foundation of knowledge before you can cross that threshold. Humans are just taking baby steps at this time. I know we thought we were really something, but once you get over here, you understand that what we were capable of is like baby talk. So yes, hopefully there will be a time that humans are ready to learn the very advanced techniques, and when that time comes, there will be help for them.
Now that you're on the other side, can you explain how alien abductions take place?
An alien abduction takes place through one of the great dimensional change technologies to which I was referring. The aliens have the ability to take the human form and change dimensions. When they change that dimension, it is basically like the entirety of a human becomes a light beam or an energy beam. Perhaps the best description is in Star Trek with the beam or the beam me up Scotty thing. The aliens have the ability to change humans into an energy form that can be transported instantaneously. That is a technology that sometime in advance will be learned, but not for quite a while.
How would you define your religious beliefs when you walked the earth?
I was an agnostic. I could not prove the existence of God in my mind. I knew that there were many things in the Bible that could never exist. I did not believe in the concept of Adam and Eve and having two sons that could populate the earth. I did not believe that Noah could put all the animals onto his ark for this great flood. I mean, I had trouble visualizing polar bears from a country that was never discovered or known being in his ark. So there were many things that my mind could not accept. But I also could accept the fact that perhaps there was a greater being beyond us. I had doubts. I never spoke of the fact that I truly thought there possibly could be some energy out there that we didn't understand. But I would think that the best way to describe it would be agnosticism.
Thank you so much for joining us again. It's always an interesting visit. Do you have a final message for us, Steve?
Yes. I would like to, first of all, assure you that my concepts of religion were not accurate. There definitely is a dimension called heaven. We can move from that dimension back to the earth plane. We can do things of which you will never ever conceive until you get here. It is very important that each human comes to the concept of spiritual reality on its own. There are miracles all around you, and you just need to look for it. I was involved in a great technological march towards advancing computerization and wireless communication. I was blessed to be around many highly intelligent people. If you're going to succeed, you have to be able to listen to those around you. You have to be able to follow advice, and you have to understand that there is no one individual that is capable of accomplishing the incredible miracles of God. Science and technology will move forward. There are technologies that will be kept from the people. There will be many things that could help the people that will not become public. That is a sad fact. Many people value money ahead of helping others. Help the young, teach them, and train them that they can accomplish anything that they wish. The young are the key to the future. You keep hearing that, and it is absolute. As long as the younger generation is allowed to drift aimlessly, humans, evolution, will drift aimlessly as well. So thank you for allowing me to come through once again. Whenever you call, I always am here for you. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Steve.
Okay. Thank you, the three of you. Very, very interesting tonight. At least that's my considered opinion. Next week, we're going to be doing something a little bit on the different side. We're going to be dealing truly with history. We're going to be channeling 3 American pioneers and explorers. We're going to speak with the spirits of Daniel Boone, Jim Bridger, and Kit Carson. They experienced the Great Western Advance. They were fur traders. They lived at a time that we cannot conceive of today. I hope that you join us, and I think that you will be rewarded with this show. You can submit questions or suggestions for future guests on our email, channelinghistoryonparax@gmail.com. My 8th book, Message of God for a Modern World, is available on Amazon in English and Spanish versions, as well as being on Kindle.
We hope you enjoyed our show tonight. Please tell your friends about our show and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you all have a wonderful week. God bless you all.
Yes, thank you all for listening to this show. We truly try to bring you an understanding of history. Today, you had the opportunity to hear from 3 of the greatest inventors of our time. They were wonderful people, and they spoke very truthfully to you. So thank you for listening. Please join us Sundays at 9 p.m. Eastern Time on the Parax Radio Network.
Thanks for listening to Channeling History. Tune in again next week for another electrifying episode, as we never know who will make an appearance or who will come through the portal. Any rebroadcast or other use of this program without explicit permission is strictly prohibited. Copyright 2020. Our Story Begins by Kevin MacLeod, licensed through Incompetech.com.